Hello there. So, in the last Nintendo Direct, it was announced that the first Metroid Prime game had been remastered for the Switch. Now, I never really got into the Prime games. I've tried, but it's just, I don't really like Metroid as a first-person shooter. I prefer the 2D style games. There's probably people who feel the same way. Maybe some people feel the opposite. They prefer the first-person shooter games over the 2D games. There's probably people who love both, But, anyway, ever since that, a lot of people, including myself, have been kind of dropping hints to Nintendo, like, oh, maybe you could remaster this GameCube game, or that one, or whatever. So, to kind of add more fuel to the fire, I have a few suggestions here. The first one, probably the most obvious, is Paper Mario, the ThousandYear Door, which was actually one of my first GameCube games. Geez, that was almost 20 years ago. Well, anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna go into all the details and stuff. But this is one I've talked about a number of times on my channel. I remember what's his name? The YouTuber Arlo actually even started a whole thing about this years ago. Started a whole movement basically to get the game remastered. Because they did say one time years ago that they would consider remastering it if the fans were vocal enough about it. And the thing with the Paper Mario games is ever since the Wii, they've kind of gone like a different route, away from the whole JRPG style. And, I never played Sticker Star or Color Splash. Color Splash, I always intended to. I just never got around to it. I never even picked it up. I do think that Super Paper Mario and Paper Mario the Origami King were great games in their own unique ways, but I still kind of long for the original formula, if you will, like something like the first two games. And what better way to bring that back than to remaster what many consider to be the greatest of all time. Because the thing is, honestly, when it comes to the first two Paper Mario games, Paper Mario and Paper Mario the ThousandYear Door, honestly, I don't think I could pick one over the other. I like them both equally, but I will say this one is definitely more unique, with the characters, the story, like the villain and stuff, the battle system, yeah. The next is Star Fox Assault. Now, Star Fox, which actually just had its 30th anniversary last week for the franchise as a whole, and ever since Star Fox on the N64, this is something I had always wanted to see. Like, even though this game was released like 8 years later, and I think it was 2005, but that's beside the point. Ever since N64 on the ever since Star Fox 64 on the N64, I always wanted to see something like this where you had some levels that were flying and some levels were on foot. And that's what this game basically was, like I said, even though it came out 8 years later. Star Fox Adventures I never really played. I mean, that was supposed to be a whole other game entirely beforehand, but that's a whole other story. And this game, it delivered, so to speak. The thing is, well, where was I going with this? The flying levels are great. The on-foot levels are a bit clunky, which obviously that's something they could fix with if they remade it. And another thing is, I remember this game actually had a 4-player multiplayer mode, or a versus mode, excuse me. And you're on foot, and then you just, you can actually jump in and out of the R-Wings and the Landmasters. Like, I remember, one thing I always think about with that is that I remember it was me and my brother were playing that. We're playing this, the 4-player versus mode. It was just the two of us, and then our sister came home with a friend of hers, and they were like, "Oh, what's this game?" And they're like, "Oh, it's Star Fox. You guys want to play?" So then all 4 of us played it, and that was fun. But anyway, for the versus mode, there's only 6 characters. It's Fox, Falco, Slippy, and Crystal, and then you can also unlock Peppy and Wolf. But again, if they did remaster it, obviously they'd update the graphics and the controls and stuff, but I think also for the multiplayer mode, they could add some more characters, like Leon and Panther, Pigman, Andrew, hell, maybe even Rob64. And I feel like part of the reason, I almost feel like Nintendo is like kind of afraid to make a new Star Fox game because like maybe it won't sell well, even though they kind of did that with Pilot Wings. They made a Pilot Wings game out of nowhere on the 3DS a number of years ago. But that aside, if maybe they could just remaster one of the old ones to kind of test the waters, and two other games, which I'm gonna add to the GameCube list of games that should be remastered. The GameCube games that should be remastered, like Metroid Prime was. That I don't have them, but I'm just gonna bring them up because it's kind of the same idea, like test the waters, if you will. Remaster old games, test the waters to see if they sell well, and then maybe make new ones. But those two games are Custom Robo and F-Zero GX. The next game is Battalion Wars, which I actually don't have much to say about this one because I haven't played a whole lot of it, which is ironic because I remember when this first came out, I was like, oh, I definitely want to get that, and I didn't get it till years later. But from what I remember, it's kind of, because I only played a little of it, but I remember it being kind of like a third-person shooter battalion, like, simulation type of game, like, almost like a cross between, I don't know, Advanced Wars and, like, the old Army Men games. Remember those? I guess you could say it's kind of like that. Like I said, I haven't played this in years, but I do remember it, from what I did play, it's a fun game. This was a short-lived franchise from Nintendo because there was a sequel for the Wii, but, yeah. Because some of these games actually aren't, something I forgot to mention in the beginning is that some of these aren't made directly from Nintendo, but I'm focusing mainly on games that were exclusive to the GameCube. They're not, yeah. Some were like made by, you get the idea. Anyway, the next is Kirby Air Ride. I'm surprised this game never got a sequel. This was another one of my first GameCube games. It's a racing game where you have a variety of different, like, vehicles and hovercrafts, things like that. And there's, like, basically, I think there's 3 different modes. One is a racing game, kind of like RC Pro Am. Another one is a racing game, kind of like Mario Kart. And the other one, which is probably my favorite, is kind of like a I almost want to say like Twisted Metal in a way. It's like basically this big, huge city, and you play as Kirby, and you like jump around on different vehicles, like from one to another and stuff like that. And then you go to like this mini game thing afterward. And you get power ups. You try and fight each other and stuff like that. But yeah, and also you because there's like so many different vehicles and stuff, you can unlock them for the Mario Kart mode, and yeah. Next is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which was released in 2005. This was back when Fire Emblem wasn't as popular as it is now, because it was still fairly new in the States. The first one to be released in the States, and I think outside of Japan as a whole, was only 2 years ago. Although, like, over the years, I've played, like, pretty much every Fire Emblem game, well, except for a few. Like, the only ones I skipped were, Sacred Stones on the Game Boy Advance, and, a couple of the Fates games, because, with Fire Emblem Fates, they basically, like, split it into 2 games, and they made, like, a third one. They did kind of like a Pokemon type of thing, so I only played one of the Fates games, but other than that, other than the other Fates games and Sacred Stones, I played all of them. None of the mobile games either. But anyway, well, we're talking about the mainline games anyway, not the spin-offs. But yeah, I've never been disappointed by a Fire Emblem game, but I still think this is my favorite, along with Radiant Dawn, which was a sequel for the Wii. This is, like, I think the best story in the franchise. And it's unfortunate that it kind of I feel like it kind of gets sat on, so to speak. Like I mentioned in my last video, the game pickups video, they do have Ike and Micaiah as like emblem characters, but the thing is, it's unfortunate this is a franchise. This one, like I said, gets kind of sit on. Like, so many people haven't played it. It's because it's such a great game. You know, it's unfortunately this is expensive and rare and stuff. But you know, there's also emulators. But let's be honest, not everyone's gonna emulate. But yeah, it's still, literally, I think this is the best story in the franchise. Even though, I mean, this was back before the games had voice acting, other than for the cutscenes, and the voice acting and the cutscene really weren't that good. Cutscenes, that is. Other than that, it's an amazing game, you know, and I think it would be great if they remastered it, along with, you know, or maybe they could do like a dual set with this and the sequel Radiant Dawn, because, like I said, so many people haven't gotten the chance to play it, and that's a shame, because it's an amazing game. Next is one that I've talked about a lot of times on my channel, and that's Geist. Now, Geist is a pretty unique game because it's a first-person perspective, and you don't really have, like, a weapon or anything. Basically, you're turned into a Geist, or ghost, whatever. And in order to, what's the word I'm looking for? Progress through the game, you take possession of people, animals, even objects. Like, and if you're trying to get by somebody, you have to, like, possess, like, I don't know, something, like a file cabinet or something to make it go off so it scares the hell out of them and they run away or something like that. Or you possess a soldier and then use his gun to, like, fight bosses and stuff. It's just a very unique game. And it's got a great soundtrack, too, as well as, so did Star Fox Assault. That was another thing I forgot to mention. But there's also a 4-player versus mode in that, but God, I haven't done that in, like, probably 15 years or something. Like, I remember it was when my brother rented it back in the day, but yeah, very unique. It was interesting to see, even though this wasn't made directly by Nintendo, it was like I forget who made it, but was that it? Space? Whatever. It was still like a Nintendo exclusive, like a first-party title made by another company. And it was kind of interesting to see, like, an M-rated first-party title from Nintendo. Well, like I said, Nintendo didn't develop it, but they did publish it. And the last one, Pokemon Colosseum, another one that I've mentioned from time to time on here. It's kind of like Pokemon Stadium. You have, instead of stadium battles, you have Colosseum battles, which is pretty much the same idea. But you also have a story to the game, which is basically, you play as this kid right here, who, oh, if you can see him, there he is, who leaves like a, it's like this evil organization that turns Pokemon into, like, mindless killing machines by closing off the gateway to their heart. So, you have this device that allows you to capture Pokemon via Pokeball. Well, Pokemon that belong to other trainers, because, like, you know, these other trainers and people from the organization have these weaponized Pokemon, if you will. So you use this device that allows you to capture their Pokemon via Pokeball, and then you try and save them by reopening the gateway to their heart, and as you battle against this evil organization. Yeah, very unique game. Like I said, you know, it's another one that I feel like doesn't get a lot of recognition and stuff, and I've always said it deserves an HD remaster, and much like Geist and Star Fox Assault, this game has a really great soundtrack. But those are just some of the GameCube titles that I think should be remastered for the Switch, the same way that the first Metroid Prime game was. Is there any others that you guys can think of? Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week, and as always, thanks for watching.